What is the sound of your life being stolen? Is it the sharp clang of a prison door? The cold finality of a judge's gavel? Or is it silence? The crushing, empty silence of an island fortress, light years from home, where the only thing that separates you from the world is the sea. Many of you have heard of the movie, Midnight Express, a brutal, terrifying film that shocked audiences and defined a generation's view of foreign justice. It told the story of a young American's descent into a Turkish prison hell. But that's not the story we're telling today. Because the truth, the real story of what happened to Billy Hayes is far more incredible, far more suspenseful, and has been buried for decades under the weight of Hollywood fiction. This is the story of a man who didn't just escape a prison. He had to escape his own story. It all starts here. 1970, this is Billy Hayes, 23 years old. A student from New York seeing the world. Like thousands of other young people on the hippie trail, he's exploring Europe and Asia looking for adventure. In Istanbul, a city of ancient beauty and modern chaos, he makes a decision. A stupid, life-altering decision. He decides he wants to smuggle hashish back home. Not kilos for a drug cartel. Just 4 pounds, 2 kilos for himself and his friends. October 7th, 1970. Istanbul Airport. Billy has the hash taped to his chest. He's telling himself to be cool, to act normal. He's been through security once already and they waved him through. He's minutes from boarding the plane. Home free. But a second unexpected security check appears. He sees soldiers with guns. He starts to sweat. The heartbeat gets louder. He looks for a bathroom anywhere to ditch the package, but it's too late. A soldier pats him down. The crinkle of the plastic wrap under his sweater is deafening. And then the soldier's eyes meet his. It's over. The fall was swift and brutal. Billy was sent to Sagmalsalar prison. This was not a place of rehabilitation. It was a human warehouse. A chaotic world of filth, disease, and violence. The air was thick with the stench of sweat and despair. He was no longer Billy Hayes, American student. He was inmate number 222. He learned to survive. He found friendship in the darkest of places. And through it all, he clung to one thing, his sentence. For years and 2 months. It was harsh, an eternity for a foolish mistake, but it was finite. He could count the days. He just had to hold on. And he did. For 4 years, he endured. He watched other men break. He saw unspeakable things, but he kept his eyes on the prize. By the spring of 1975, he had just weeks left. His father was in Turkey, preparing for his release. Freedom was so close he could taste it. But in a place like this, hope is the most dangerous drug of all. With less than 2 months to go, Billy was pulled from his cell and dragged back to court. He couldn't understand what was happening. His case was closed. It turned out the prosecutor wasn't satisfied. Under intense political pressure to make an example of foreign drug smugglers, the Turkish High Court had revisited his case. The charge was no longer possession. It was smuggling. Billy stood before the judge, confused and terrified. The verdict came down like a guillotine. His 4-year sentence was canceled. The new sentence was 30 years to life. My world ended. 30 years. I would be an old man. My parents would be gone. Everything I knew, everyone I loved would disappear. They had just stolen my life. This was the moment the real Midnight Express was born. Not a physical train, but a desperate, frantic escape from a life that was no longer his. He was transferred from the chaotic hell of Sagmalsalar to a place far worse. A place reserved for the most dangerous criminals. Place of no return. Imrali, a high-security prison on an island. Turkey's Alcatraz. Surrounded by treacherous currents and miles of open water, it was designed to be escape-proof. But the 30-year sentence hadn't broken Billy Hayes. It had forged him. The naive student was gone, replaced by a man with nothing left to lose. He entered what he called escape mode. This is where the true story veers dramatically from the Hollywood version. In the movie, Billy's escape is an act of rage. He violently kills a guard who was his tormentor and walks out the front door in his uniform. The real escape was far more ingenious and required a level of patience and courage the film completely ignored. At Imrali, the sea itself was the main prison wall. Prisoners were put to work, and Billy managed to get assigned to the docks. Every day he loaded and unloaded supplies, and every day he studied. He watched the tides. He learned the currents. He timed the guards' patrols. He noticed the small fishing boats, the Pleiades that were moored in the harbor. He realized no one had ever escaped because no one dared to challenge the sea. That would be his way out. He needed a plan, and he needed a window. For months he waited. He worked. He watched. Then one night it came. A storm. A furious tempest that ripped across the island, turning the sea into a churning cauldron. The wind howled. The rain lashed down. For the guards, it was a night to hunker down inside. For Billy, it was the perfect cover. This was it. Now or never. Under the cover of darkness, he made his move. He slipped away from his barracks and crept towards the harbor. He slid down a muddy embankment, his heart pounding in his chest, evading the sweeping beams of the searchlights. He plunged into the frigid, churning water, swimming silently towards a lone rowboat bobbing in the violent waves. He reached the boat, his fingers numb with cold, and untied the rope. He didn't dare start rowing yet. He let the current pull him out, drifting silently, a ghost on the water, away from the prison lights. Once he was a safe distance away, he grabbed the oars, and he began to row for his life. For hours he fought the sea, 17 miles. Every muscle screamed in agony. The waves crashed over him, threatening to swamp his tiny vessel. He was a single, insignificant man battling the full fury of nature. He was exhausted, hypothermic, but he kept repeating a mantra in his head. "I'm going home. I'm going home." Miraculously, he reached the mainland. He collapsed on the shore, a soaking, shivering wreck. But he wasn't free. He was still in Turkey, a fugitive in a foreign land. The manhunt would be on. He knew he had to change his appearance. He found a way to dye his blonde hair jet black. He traveled by foot and by bus, hiding in plain sight, his nerves frayed with every police car that passed. His final destination was the border with Greece. His final obstacle, the Maritsa River. Exhausted but running on pure adrenaline, he waded into the water and swam. He felt the current trying to pull him back, one last attempt by the country that had held him captive for 5 years. With the last ounce of his strength, he pulled himself onto the Greek shore. He had done it. He was free. Billy Hayes returned to America a hero. His story was incredible. He wrote a book, Midnight Express, detailing his ordeal. Then Hollywood came knocking. The film, directed by Alan Parker and written by Oliver Stone, was a massive hit. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, but it came at a cost. The movie twisted his story into a brutal spectacle. It portrayed all Turks as monstrous, sadistic villains. The escape was changed from an act of incredible endurance into a violent murder. Billy Hayes became famous, but for a story that wasn't really his. He became a symbol of Turkish brutality, and for decades he carried the weight of a nation's anger. In 2007, decades after his escape, Billy Hayes returned to Turkey. Not as a fugitive, but as a guest. He held a press conference and he apologized. He apologized to the Turkish people for the damage the film had done to their country's image. A film he didn't write or direct. He sought to undo the fiction that had overshadowed his own truth. The story of Billy Hayes is more than just a prison break. It's a story about survival, not just of the body, but of the spirit. It's about the crushing weight of injustice and the impossible endurance of hope. He escaped the walls of Imrali. He rowed across a raging sea, and he walked out of a hostile country. But his longest journey was escaping the shadow of his own story, to finally tell the world the truth about the most insane prison escape you've probably never heard.